Well, well, well. Well, well, well. It looks like we're welcome to the Dragon Month once again because what an episode. My name is Ebube and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner, where we are absolutely in shock and awe because this might be the House of the Dragon episode to end all House of the Dragon episodes so far. So far. We are completely excited up in here and generally the blacks they're starting to impress us finally they're starting to do what they're supposed to do so I you know what before I get too excited let me ask Afam how he's doing because oh my god I'm smiling from ear to ear like my cheeks are starting to hurt it's actually insane. Afam, how you doing, please?
Um, I think it's going to take me a while to recover from this episode, but it's annoying because there's only one episode coming up. After Rook's Rest, it
Right?
took me
This is
two
how you write a
episodes to.
penultimate episode. This is how you close the season. This is what I was saying, right? I said the first half of this season was a slow build up until episode 4. And now they're doing a slightly more heightened build up from episode 5 to episode 8. Come on, this is episode 4 level action that we're getting in episode 7 instead of episode 8. Like, really, what are they doing for the finale? This is fantastic. Like, this is
Yeah,
great. What else do
my,
you want to
my
be watching right now?
my one hope is that they don't pull an episode 5 where they slow things down after this. I hope, and like it was episode 4 was the peak, then 5 and 6 dipped a little bit, and then 7 is like right
Yeah.
up there. And I'm hoping 8 just maintains that level of chaos. But
This was
goddamn,
amazing. It had everything. It had the dialogue, it had the action, it had the VFX, it had the scheming, it had the character moments, it had the locations, it had the plot driving, it had the
the
lore. Like, come
cinematography.
on.
The
Oh, the
cinematography in this episode
cinematography.
was
Good God Almighty.
amazing.
And
Like I
let's
think I
not
might be in
forget the
love with Emma
music.
Darcy.
Emma Darcy. Emma Darcy, we
Killing
heal
it.
you. we
Killing
hail
it.
you, like literally. This is a career defining performance that we're
Yeah.
witnessing right here in real time. Okay, in
Yeah.
real time, the acting in this episode was just on point in so many ways. And I know we're just here on a tirade of praising this episode right now, but please just give us a second, okay? Because even Harry Collette as Jacaerys, the emotion, Corlys Velaryon,
Emotional
right? Steve
damage.
Toussaint as Corlys Velaryon, being a deadbeat dad to end all deadbeat dads. Like, come, bro. No, no, no. This is this is great, and it's the kind of thing where I can only look forward to season 3 because with the way things are going, my words when we first started doing this in season 1 that this story rivals Game of Thrones in more ways than we can even start telling people now. I'm not gonna have to eat those words essentially because this story is so focused, it's so intimate in a world that's so much more brutal, a world that's so much more dangerous in a sense, and it's just nice to see how certain things happening now shape that world that we saw in Game of Thrones. I'm very excited for this, and you know what? We might as well just wait for the finale now. Like they should just inject it into my veins at this
Straight.
exact moment because now there can only be further build up from this. We're probably going to see some action with our new dragon riders, who we will discuss in a moment, and maybe some dragons who have been ridden for a while, but we haven't really met their riders yet. So maybe there's a chance we'll see Daron by the end of this season. Who knows? I think character introductions are typically best done at the beginning of a new season rather than at the end of one. But it could be a nice little cliffhanger. I think there's still a lot left for us to see, um, especially now that Damon might not be tripping balls anymore. Who knows?
Well, he
Who knows?
was. He was seeing Viserys.
Yeah, but only, like hopefully that's the last of it. Um, but you know what? Speaking of tripping balls and just being centered with yourself, we have a lot that we're covering right now. Okay, I've already said that we're going to be doing industry, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. We're very excited for that one. But the team got together to talk again about Inside Out. I said that we had more to say about a project that we had discussed recently. And yeah, we took some time to explain the 5 scenes in the movie Inside Out 2 that show why it is actually secretly the scariest movie of 2024. There's a lot to get into there, so definitely go listen to Bankole Chinedu and Chiagozim break everything down and talk about which emotions they would actually be. Because yeah, that's there's a lot of soul searching in that film. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our newsletter at popcornfordinnerpod.com/hashtag newsletter. We have an interesting issue coming up at the beginning of August that may or may not prove that Bankole is crazy. So yeah, more to come down the line. But getting back to the craziness that we have here in Westeros, I knew that they would start with the shot of the two dragons facing off on the beach with their riders, right? At the end of episode 6, I was kind of like, why are they cutting off here? Like, why are they just showing us her flying away? And then in the trailer for episode 7, they're showing us Adam talking to Rhaenyra, and she's like, "Yeah, you stand with the dragon of House Targaryen. What do you want?" And it's like, why make that a cliffhanger if you're literally just going to show right after in the trailer that it's him? But I
Yeah.
guess they treated it more like one long episode, at least up until a certain point in this one, where they just cut it maybe for time. And now we're seeing them go right there. So it's almost like, yeah, we know everybody is aware that it's going to be him. We've kind of set that up. So let's hear what he has to say. So how did you think that was going to go? Like, were you surprised by how that played out? Do you expect him to say more? Like, what are we on?
I was pleasantly surprised. I think when you open up the floodgates to having everyone have dragons, who the hell knows what's going to happen? But he did
Yeah.
seem very like he still knows his place, even though he has a whole ass dragon.
Sea
I
Smoke
mean,
is very mean. Well, this has been well
yeah,
established.
exactly. Seasmoke
Not
is
as
a
mean as the
battle.
Bronze Fury, but mean still.
I'm pretty sure Seasmoke is more battle ready than what's Rhaenyra's dragon's name again?
Cyrax.
Cyrax. Yeah, I'm
And,
pretty
and it's
sure.
fitting, right? It's fitting
Yeah, it
because
is.
his original rider was Lenor, who is the
It was
son of
Laenor.
the sea snake. So like this is a
Exactly.
dragon that's supposed to be comfortable near water, essentially.
Exactly.
So
And
it's
this
nice
is
that
a
he picks his
dragon.
ship right.
Exactly, and this is a dragon who's been to war because all the wars we saw in the
Hmm.
Stepstones in season one, Sea Smoke was there
He wants to
being ridden
smoke.
by
Yeah.
Lena. So, yeah, so Sea Smoke is a pretty formidable battle ready dragon, and yeah, it's I do feel like it was when I saw that scene in the trailer, I wasn't sure because Rhaenyra seemed like she was getting like an like aggressive like what the fuck is this what's going on kind of vibe, but
Well, she
I
was. I
feel
mean, I
like
think
she
she has to
left.
kind of do that front in a sense. She has to
Yeah,
show, hey, like, don't think this is okay. Because from her point of
yeah,
view, this guy stole the dragon. He
yeah,
didn't
true.
realize that the dragon. She didn't realize that the dragon stole, like,
Came to him.
came
Yeah,
to Adam, right? So he had to explain that. So I think she obviously
yeah,
has to come correct. She's like, I'm the ruler, and you're literally a lowborn. Like, let's not forget that we are the only ones that know who these guys actually are. Like to
yeah,
Rhaenyra, this is just some random guy from Driftmark.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I do feel like she left that scene trusting him because I feel
oh,
like one of the
definitely. I mean, she
reasons,
even told Misaria, and like later on, right,
yeah,
that
but
she has no choice but to trust him because, well,
she
he
had
has
no
a
choice
dragon,
but to
so he's
trust him.
either
But I
for me
feel
or
like
against him.
I'm dead. Yeah, she has no choice but to trust him. But I feel like she also made the choice to trust him. Like in like both are true because
Like in that
he does
moment,
seem
right?
like what?
Like in that moment, essentially,
Yeah,
like she had to
exactly.
decide there and then.
Yeah, and he does seem like a trustworthy person. I mean, the two brothers seem like just very honest people, trustworthy, down to earth,
Do you
and
have one that you kind of identify with more, one that you like more, one that you want to succeed more? Like, which one of them is
hmm,
like who are we rooting for the most between the two brothers? Is it the one
that's
who is looking for glory in order to, rise up in the world, the ambitious one, or is it the one who's just trying to stay quiet, kind of dodging all the greatness that's being thrown at him by the universe?
I think I will probably pick the more ambitious one, so the one who has a dragon, not because he has a dragon and blah blah blah, and he's not because it's just because the other brother he needs to like stand up for yourself and accept your blessings. He's just blocking his
Stand up.
blessings. Exactly, he's constantly blocking his blessings. So I'm like, bro, like if you won't root for you, why should I root for you?
But here's the thing, though. He makes an interesting point. He said before that Adam should not continue waiting for something that will never happen. And stuff is definitely going to happen for them. It is already happening for them.
Hmm.
But Adam says to Rhaenyra, "My father is no one of consequence." Oh my
Yeah,
God. How did
I
that make you
respected that.
feel? Because I don't know if I expected that. Like, I was like,
No, no, I
"Ugh."
respected that. I feel like
Okay.
it's because Corlys, and again, another reason why I like the brothers, Adam and Alan, is that Corlys hasn't claimed them. So they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to
What are
make
you
any
doing,
moves
man?
until, Corlys acknowledges me as his natural child. And I kind of respect that, I do wonder because who can ride a dragon? Because okay, the Valarians are from Valeria, but they are not dragon
Hmm.
riders, as
They
Colin
were never
says,
dragon
right
riders. Yes.
to his to the older son, the older of the brothers.
Alan.
But Alan, thank you. But who is their mother? And I guess no one knows her deal, or maybe it's just Sea Smoke was missing Laner, who again we have theorized is dead, and was looking for the closest blood relation to his
Or
former
just
rider.
some other black guy with dreads.
Wow, those dragons are. Well, I mean, I can't say they're racist because he burnt the white person and then went to go look for the
No,
black
like
person.
let's be real. Sea Smoke is black. Let's just say it right now. Sea Smoke is black. Like I don't. I you know what? I will not be explaining further. If you understand, you understand. You just know. Because here's the thing: dragons don't care about status. They only care about blood, right?
Hmm.
There is there's someone I know, right, who said something very interesting. He was like, basically, there is a relationship between priesthood and kingship, especially like if you look at it from, let's say, a Christian perspective, right?
Hmm.
And your priesthood kind of informs your kingship, not the other way around. And I
Hmm.
think that kind of works in the favor of this narrative here, because the dragons are not looking at nobility. They're looking at your connection to the source, your origin, essentially, your
Hmm.
devotion, and your metal. Like the dragons can really sense what is actually in someone. So it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter, which noble line you came from that just happens to have mixed with the Targaryens at some point. They don't think of that, right? And I don't know how anyone didn't realize that even now, like after all of this, Rhaenyra is in the library speaking of honor that's to be found in noble lineages. And I like the Missaria kind of just laughs at her. It's like, what are you doing? Have you learned nothing?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
do you not see what's actually happening here? Right?
yeah,
Because I just I just find it interesting that this is taking a turn. And of course, Jacaerys can see as well that it's taking a turn. And I feel like he's maybe a little salty. Like I have a few ideas as to why he's salty, but at the same time, we have to point out, bro, this was your idea.
hmm
Like this was your idea. I
yeah.
mean, I don't know what should we be saying to him at this point.
I don't know. It's like I can't figure out if his anger is justified or not because I think on some level it's a case where he feels illegitimate to the throne because he's not like he was born from the union of Rhaenyra and
And
having
that
strong not
confrontation,
Later.
wow.
But ultimately it doesn't matter because his claim to the throne doesn't come through his dad, it comes through his mom. So he
Mm-hmm.
might not have the blonde, and he's married to a Velaryon, or he's engaged or whatever to a Velaryon who is also a Targaryen. So even what if their child has dark hair and they can always like marry some
Literally, the
siblings
child
and
would
get
not even have
dark
dark
hair.
hair. Any child that Jacaerys and Bela have would have so much Valyrian blood that
Yeah, they.
it negates anything anymore. So we have a situation here where the issues of the patriarchy that have been affecting Rhaenyra are now affecting her son as well, because
Mhm.
he is here not even realizing that in this situation, if he took over the throne, he would have the power to make the truth his own. He would actually
True,
have that authority. But he's here
true,
like, oh, nobody's going to accept me. Well, as it turns out, you're a guy. Your mother is everything she is, and they still don't want to accept her.
exactly.
So don't you think you should let her walk so that you can run and then make her struggle not for nothing?
exactly.
Use your head, bro.
And she asked
Raising
him like,
teenagers must be hard. My goodness.
it's a difficult one, but she asked him like, "What would you have me do?" And I
What more
felt
would you
that
have me do? Because she keeps
exactly,
asking this question
exactly.
every time. She's like, "What do you people want me to do?"
Exactly. In that moment, I wish he said something, even if something that I disagree with, but at least he has his own idea. Because I think he started off the season making good moves. He got the Vale, he got the North, and he got the bridge,
He's
the
doing
tower with
exactly
the
what he should be
phrase.
doing. Yeah,
Exactly. So he was making moves, but all of a sudden he seems his character's journey seemed to have like stagnated a little bit. And maybe part
he
of it
needs
is
something to
Rhaenyra.
do. I think he feels like if he doesn't have action, rising action specifically, he's
Mhm.
becoming irrelevant to the plot. It's almost like Jace has some meta knowledge of the narrative, and he's like, "No, no,
A
no, I
bit.
need more screen time because I need to be seen as a worthy heir."
Oh
Right?
God.
Yeah, but Rhaenyra says, "Let us raise an army of bastards." And speaking of bastards and heirs, like as I've alluded to, Corlys needs to be flogged because because how is he going up to Adam and he's like, "Well done." Like he's only
I
been
think like
speaking. No, literally, he's only been speaking to
that's
Alan this whole time,
like
and Adam has said,
I
"Yeah, he
know.
just ignores me." You finally talk to him, and it's just like, "You've come up in the world. Well done."
It's like when he had to do all this and claim a dragon just to get attention from his dad. I'm like,
Nah,
bro.
so many people needed to be slapped in this episode. Even Celtigar. It's like, bro, they slapped you last episode, and you're still here talking.
Oh my god. Okay, Rhaenyra's castle they're in tatters. I don't understand. Why isn't she showing up for these meetings, bro? Because without her,
I
I
think
mean,
she's tired of
obvious,
listening to them.
true, but
I
because
think
I
that's
feel
it,
like
honestly.
so yeah, but okay, so I feel like when she earlier on, she was always listening to them and nothing was being done. But
Hmm.
now she's just doing her own thing. But you still need your advisors somehow, right? Because if not, you can do everything yourself, but at
Because you need
some
to make them
point,
feel useful to you.
exactly, and I think that's one thing that maybe isn't going so well for Rainier. I think Corliss is the only person who seems secure enough to be like, yeah, no, you can do what you're, do your thing. I got things over here. Jay seems to be having doubts or some concerns, especially with all the dragon seeds. The dragon keepers have all quit. What's his
Oh
face
my
that got
god, I did
slapped?
not
He's
have
just
that on
being
my
a
bingo
bigot.
card. I did
What?
not have the
I
Dragon
know,
Keepers boycotting this
I know.
this
I
lunacy on my bingo card. Like this
because the
show is the gift that keeps on
Targaryens.
giving.
Like so, so many of like okay, Ulf talks about his mom, and for my book lovers, knowing it doesn't matter like ultimately in the show, but knowing who his mom is like a wow moment. But he's literally like their first cousins. He's Damon and Viserys' first cousin. He was
Yeah.
the old king we see at the start of Game of Thrones. That's his direct grandfather. So it's not that far removed. These people are Targaryens. And if you look around in that room, there are some people there who I'm like, bro, you're not a Targaryen. But there were a lot of people who are 1, maybe 2 degrees removed away from Rhaenyra. It's just,
Yeah.
sneaky links.
Exactly. They're not that different, right? And the woman you're talking about, I believe, is Sarah Targaryen, right? One
Yeah.
of Jaehaerys' daughters.
Yeah, the
And
wild
it's
one.
it's said before that his daughters drove him insane. I think that's even been
Yeah.
said in this show in season one. Because yes, he was the old king. Yes, he was the conciliator. Yes, he's basically the best king that this kingdom ever had. But oh my God,
Yeah,
his
he
first
went through
son
a lot.
died. His second son died. His kingdom was in shambles. They had to do a council. Like even in that first episode, when they're doing the council that they have to choose between Viserys and Rhaenys, can you see the stress on this man's face? He's like, I'm so done with this. Like he's so tired. And meanwhile, you have his other daughter, Sierra, right? I mean, of all his daughters, she's probably the quote unquote wildest one, right? She was very willful. She basically did her own thing the entire time, and she had relations and relationships with a lot of men, or so we've been told, right? And it makes sense now that she would have been visiting those kids of hers from time to time. So Hugh saying, I knew who my mother was, is pretty amazing, right? That's
Mhm.
pretty cool because that's a direct line to her and it's a direct nod to that part of the lore, which I found very interesting. And I
Yeah.
think understanding your family, like that is a huge theme in this show. And in many ways, we see it come to a head in this episode, right? Because I said last week that Corliss, for example, might be doing some of what he's doing now on this council or just being present right now for Rhaenys' sake to honor her, right? Because in the books, it wasn't even like that. Like he was pissed. rightfully so. I was surprised that he wasn't saying more when he just showed up at that table, put on his hand of the king pin, hand of the queen pin, and then just greeted everybody, and then they all sat down and had their meeting. Like in the book, he was like, "Nah, it should have been you."
Yeah,
Like, why am I? Like, why am I? She's dead. Like, my wife is dead. You're asking me to come sit on this council for what? What are we
yeah,
fighting for? You should have been the one to go and die. Like, get rid of everything. Like, because remember, the man has nothing now, or at
hmm.
least he has nothing that he's willing to acknowledge. He should acknowledge his two sons.
Hey,
He
hey,
should
hey,
acknowledge his two
He
sons.
has Bela and Reina, okay?
Okay,
Don't
well,
forget about the
Bela
twins.
and Reyna are not everything. He wants somebody who is salt and sea. And guess who
True.
says I am salt and sea in this episode? Okay, I'm just saying they need to send Alan to college so that he can rule this place. And I don't know, man. Like it just it's very fitting to me. Maybe he'll even start to wear his actual hair and not just shave it. Who knows?
I
Who
saw
knows?
something on Twitter that the blackest thing in Game of Thrones was Alan and Alan and Adam cutting their hair and talking about their dad
Bruh.
being absent in their lives. I
That's
said,
actually
"Wow."
so true.
I said,
They brought in an
"Wow."
actual barber to help with that scene. Like, because this show they're so detailed, like they consult on everything. It was actually
Oh
amazing.
my
They
god.
use a double too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, but
Um,
on the brothers, I do want to ask you: do you think that Rhaenyra was too quick to trust Adam?
yes, yes.
But what would
I've
you
said
have
it
her
before,
do?
and I'll say it again. Rhaenyra is not street smart.
Up there.
She's starting to think she is, but she is not. Okay, I think that she was too quick to trust Adam. She definitely should have been quick to bring him into the fold so that
Hmm.
he starts to trust her. But that doesn't necessarily mean she needs to present all of her cards all at once. And
Hmm.
thankfully, I don't think she's doing too badly here. I think she handled this situation probably the best that she could have. But at the same time, again, she doesn't know who he is yet. And I really do hope she finds out because I think that will add some meaning to some of this, especially for Corliss. And if he legitimizes them, then that would be cool, but then that would basically make Jacaerys' fears start to come to light a bit more, right? Because he's scared of
Yeah,
people who can challenge them on dragons. But I would ask this foolish young man, right? You want nobles on dragons, people who you think would swear fealty to you. What makes you think that nobility makes them loyal to you? So I would
true.
ask Rhaenyra the same thing. You're saying, like, you realize that somebody on a dragon is more likely to be loyal to you when they owe everything to you. Like you
Yeah,
see that, right? These nobles who you want to be on these dragons instead, they have more power and resources to actually challenge you. Like there's only one noble house with dragons, and that's you guys.
yeah,
By trying to give the dragons to other nobles, you are creating another noble house with dragons.
exactly.
Why do you want
Dragons.
to do
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Because now those people's children can ride those same dragons and the
Yeah,
dragons that hatch from those ones. Like you have to
yeah,
understand what you're doing here. It's an issue. So
yeah,
I would say they need to be careful and understand just how this plan is going. And I think honestly, the way things went in this episode, that's the best that it could have gone for them, right? It really is, and I will definitely talk about that scene going forward. But I feel like now they have an actual leg up. This is one of their biggest, like most victorious moments so far, right?
hmm,
But switching gears a little bit, let's go over to King's Landing.
okay.
I think switching from that scene on the beach straight to Alicent is an interesting choice, right? We wonder why. I mean, I anyway have been wondering why Aemon really fired Alicent. I think on some level it's his mommy issues, right? I think he knows that on some level she can temper him. And because he's been wanting love from her, I think he's afraid that if she's here, he can't be the hard guy he wants to be, in a sense. I don't know how to. I just think that it's something along those lines where he has something to prove, and he feels like having her around is going to be kind of an issue for the image he's trying to project. But looking at Alicent herself, obviously she's recovering from the riot, right? We see rats around because obviously there are no more rat catchers and they haven't started employing cats yet. But one thing that I think is worth noting is that she's cut right, on her forearm in the same place that she caught Rhaenyra in season one. And I think that parallel is very interesting because Rhaenyra's life starts to change in very interesting ways after that happens. Of course, it's very heightened and it's done with the cat's paw dagger and it's done in front of, fire. So like there's this whole
Everyone,
fire and blood
yeah,
theme going on. That felt prophetic in a way. Whereas this feels a bit more ominous, right? And it's cool that Orwell is here, treating her and everything. But there are repercussions, of course. Laris and Jasper Wild, who I kind of hope dies this season. I don't know. I don't know why I hope I don't know why I hope Mr. Ironrod dies this season, but I just have this feeling I just hope we don't have to deal with him anymore. I'm tired of hearing him talk. But it's wild that, Rain and Waters are being sent to the wall
I
for,
know.
for
King's
starting the
Landing is
riot.
too.
And they had actual black brothers, like wandering crows,
Yeah,
coming to take them to the wall.
yeah.
How long did it take to get those guys there? Like, this is crazy. This is
But
actually crazy. Like, they just had those guys at the ready, or they just happen to be around right now recruiting for the wall, and they took these
yeah,
guys. That's kind of interesting because obviously Rain is from a major house, and Waters. The fact that his name is Waters means that he is a bastard from a noble house. Typically, that last name, like I know we've said that names like Snow, Waters, Rivers, Sand, they are given to bastards from those regions, but typically it's in noble houses. Like regular people are not giving their children any kind of last name. That's
yeah,
why Hugh is literally just called Hugh, and
yeah,
Ulf is called Ulf. So
yeah,
I find that very very interesting, because obviously those ones are hiding their nobility. They're a special case. But I mean, what do you think of the little of King's Landing politics we see in this episode? Because we see some discussions towards the end of the episode. We hear a little
hmm
bit about the fact that Darren is on his way. Ironrod is
hmm
still talking. Laris and Jasper are trying to figure out how best to deliver certain news to Aemond. They're kind of arguing, no, you should have favor. No, you should have favor. No, you have some favor here. Like, they're just playing this weird game of checkers that's going around in circles, whereas Aegon is trying to recover. So things aren't looking too good for the Greens right now. But I do think Aegon might come back stronger than before. But what do you think of that whole situation?
yeah. So on King's Landing, from Aegon's perspective, like you predicted when he fell, he's out for the rest of the season, and I don't think he's going to be able to do
Hmm.
anything up until then, up until like maybe next season. As if he even
Yeah,
survives, who the hell knows? But it's interesting that Lyris is trying to
right.
like
He could
prompt
still
him
die. Let's
to,
be real.
yeah, exactly. It is interesting that Lyris is trying to prompt him to be more physical, be more active, blah blah blah. It's almost just trying to get him
Embrace the
used to
pain.
the pain. Exactly, because that's just what his life is going to be from now on. Because his brother tried to pull off almost succeeded in the best coup in Game of Thrones history. Um,
So
then on
effective.
the what?
So effective.
Yeah, I know. It was like they were like this close. Um, but I think in King's Landing, the most interesting part to me is just looking at how Aegon is going to be without anybody to really check him. Otto isn't there. Alicent isn't there. There's not even Kristen Cole isn't there, who was missing from
Yeah,
this
she's on a
episode. There's no
retreat.
one to yeah. there's no one to put Aemon in check in any way, shape, or form. He can do literally whatever he wants, and he starts the episode by dismantling the last vestiges of his brother's rule, which is his King's Guard that he sending them to the wall. And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's King Landing was a bit more
Yeah, even
politics,
Cole
but
is
to
not
me it was more
around.
of a
That's
backdrop. Yeah, Cole isn't around. Nobody's around. It's
yeah. I wonder if this is the first episode
he
that
can
we
do
haven't
whatever he
seen Cole.
wants. I actually don't know. It probably is. It probably is. Maybe the second worst case scenario, but yeah.
I know a lot of people are happy about this because every I feel like every character dynamic got a little bit moved forward in this episode. Literally everybody we saw in this episode, like even right down to Reina and the boys, but we didn't see Cole. So I wonder. That's interesting. I don't know if we'll see Gwen again, but yeah, maybe in the next episode we'll see Otto. We'll see Darren, Tessarion.
Yeah,
Like
all of them missing
so
this
much, so
whole
much could
season.
happen.
Yeah, Otto's been
Yeah,
missing this whole
I
season.
feel like people are surprised, low key, that Otto Hightower has actually been gone from the show this long. I don't think he was even gone this long in season one, right?
Yeah,
Like he's been gone literally since the end of episode two.
yeah. So, but King Landing was what it was, whatever. But other than the way the episode ends, like what happens on Dragonstone, I really enjoyed the Riverland aspect of this
Mm-hmm.
episode because I felt like I
Mm-hmm.
had probably mentioned the Riverland to me. Damon's tripping was probably one of the more boring. Oh, not boring because we got to see Paddy, Millie. You know, we got to see Alice Rivers, who might be
Yeah.
my favorite character after Helena. Um, but the way this arc
Helena is your
seems to,
favorite character?
well, obviously I'm Team Black and it's
No,
Rhaenyra,
no. I
but
mean,
like,
it's fine for Helena. I mean, she's just a character and she's an innocent. Let's be real
yeah,
here. We've
okay, yeah,
established that
I
she's
view Helena as the face of the innocence of in this whole conflict, but she's one of my favorite
okay.
characters. And also she knows shit, you know, she knows shit that's going on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you know.
and so does Alice, who's another character I like. But I really like this. I mean, the Riverland isn't over yet, but I really like the conclusion. And oh my gosh, that Tully kid is a fucking badass. The way he just stepped up this
Yo,
episode,
Oscar, let's
Oscar,
go.
shout
Son
out to
of
Oscar,
Elmo,
goddamn
brother
Tully.
of Kermit, grandson of Grover. Let's go, Muppets. I love it.
Dude, he was on something today, man. It's just,
Nah, I love this kid.
yeah, it's like this is why we have to rise up against capitalism because can you imagine doing everything your boss says and your boss still cuts off your head? Bro, come
No,
on
for real.
now.
Wait, first, did he actually kill him?
He swung his sword.
Actually, I
I'm
think a few
assuming he
times. And
killed him.
I wondered if it was one of those things where like he swung the sword but like landed it on the ground or on a stone or something, or like he didn't actually kill him, or maybe he was tripping so it didn't work. Like I feel like I'm not quite sure that guy is dead.
He's dead.
Willem
He's dead.
Blackwood.
He's dead. And the reason why I say he's dead is that the next scene, first of all, why was there a goat? I don't know why there was a goat when he
That goat, I've
left.
been thinking about this goat, bro. Like, because the first time Damon started having visions, we saw this goat as well, and it could
Yeah,
allude to a lot of things. I know later in the Game of Thrones era, they don't show this to us in the show, but there's definitely a guy who is very reminiscent of a goat. If you know what I'm
yeah,
talking
Vargo
about, you know what I'm
holds.
talking
Yeah,
about, and he's a problem
yeah.
for a little while. But I feel like Oscar is impressive for many
Mm-hmm.
reasons. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
he's showing that he's not just a pushover, right? He's grown up a little bit off screen in the past
Exactly.
few episodes. He tells Damon to his face, "Yeah, we have another problem. They all hate you." I think on some level,
Yeah,
Damon respects this too. Like Damon likes him,
yeah,
and I think in general, Damon needs to stop talking. Right? He's just pissing everybody off. He's not helping his case anymore by speaking. He needs to
yeah,
stop talking. Oscar is smart because he's uniting the River Lords under him by acknowledging their ire and taking their side. Like Damon
yeah.
has actually made it very easy, honestly, for this guy to take up the mantle he's supposed to be taking right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be a very strong lord. Speaking
Yeah.
of strong, Simon Strong in this episode is
He's like, oh
hilarious.
my,
He said, "He's like, oh dear,"
oh
like,
dear.
he's crazy. And and to be fair, like as to what you were saying, I don't know if I necessarily like this outcome for William Blackwood, although it makes sense, right? Something has to be done here, but Damon is kind of a sneaky guy in this regard, and yeah, I don't know. I even wondered if Damon was seeing visions during that meeting with the River Lords when he was taking too long to respond. Because I was like, bro,
Mm,
this is not the time. This is really
yeah.
not the time.
I think honestly that it had to be done. It was like it's like he
Mm,
there was a reason why Damon wasn't the one who made all those moves. He needed someone to make the moves,
someone with sense.
stupid moves, but he needed someone, not him, so for plausible deniability. And I feel part of me because I do think Oscar. The first time we met Oscar, he was just kind of playing a fool a little bit, acting like a kid. But something happened after his grandpa died, where Homeboy just stepped his game up. But I do think at
Oh my
some point
goodness.
Damon realized that okay, I need to like this kid looks like he actually has something, and like if I kill the Blackwood, whatever his name is, if I kill him, then I'm almost like helping reinforce this guy. And you can say whatever you want about the Riverlands, you know,
And he can
this
owe that, and he can owe that to me essentially.
exactly, exactly. And the Riverlands, they're a very like old and proud and loyal house. I mean, that guy on the Bracken house, he turned his back on a dragon and just left. I'm like, bro. They
Man,
called
that's
Damon
one
an
of the hardest
interloper.
guys I've ever seen in
Yeah,
this whole
bro.
like Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. This man was like, I will die for this hate. Like he was
Mhm.
content. He was
He was
content.
okay.
And
He
all
was
his
like
guys
this.
turned around too. He's like, yeah, I will hate you until my dying breath. No matter what that dying breath is, I will hate you in the afterlife. And when you come and meet me there, I will still hate you. Wow. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
actually crazy. I don't know. Like, and to address the whole thing about the Riverlands storyline, look, I get it. I definitely understand that viewers are tired of it at this point. It makes sense that they would be, but I think it's worth understanding that the writers are trying to play their cards very carefully when it comes to pacing. They don't want to
Yeah.
make the same mistakes that Game of Thrones did, as far as I can tell, because I feel like a lot of the people who are saying things should be moving faster now, like if people were actually teleporting from place to place, they'd be complaining. And
Yeah.
that's really what would be happening if this Riverline storyline was not going on, because we don't see anything about Damon's hallucinations in the source material. All we know is that Damon leaves, he gets an army in the Riverlands, and then that's that. It kind of just happens. But
Hmm.
obviously that can't just happen at the snap of a finger, right? That takes time. That takes relationship building, and a whole lot of stuff that we've been watching in the rest of this season elsewhere has to happen before he gets that army. So what are they going to do? Just not show Damon, not use the excellent resource that is Matt Smith? No,
Hmm.
they're not going to do that. So they're kind of showing and filling in the gaps as to what could have been happening in Harrenhal for Damon all that time. Was he on a journey of self discovery? How was he interacting with Alice Rivers? Because Alice Rivers does play a role in the story, but a lot of that role is not even stuff that we've seen yet, right?
Yeah.
We know that she's going to be around for a little while. People have described her in the histories, so we know that she does stuff. But now her building this relationship with Damon, helping him understand who exactly he is, right? Kind of allowing him to reckon with his mistakes, sort of accept himself for the misguided person that he is. And yes, he's still arrogant, but now I think he understands a little bit better about himself because he's allowing some things that have been holding him back to no longer hold him back. I think after that conversation with Viserys, maybe he's going to start seeing, hey, maybe I should not be wanting the crown. It destroys everyone who has it. So maybe what I should be doing is making sure it doesn't destroy the person I love who has it right now.
Mm.
Hopefully he finds that in all of this and he's able to move forward as the useful person that everybody seems to still think he is, despite the fact that he's been very, very absent and he's just absconded. He didn't come back. He's not returning anyone's texts. Like it's a whole thing right now with this dude. So I think for them to ensure that the story progressed as it should have and that we understood the characters in the Riverlands a little bit more, while also understanding Damon a bit more so that he can become the person he's supposed to be for the rest of the story, we needed to actually spend some time there. And I like that they use the visions to their advantage. I think everything he saw had some kind of purpose, right?
Yeah.
I don't think any of those visions was just kind of an offhanded thing. Like, yes, we got to see great actors come back. Even now, we're seeing Paddy Considine, like just
I
scene
know.
after scene, and
I
Paddy's
know.
killing it,
I'm so
right?
happy.
Like, him being on Damon's bed, right? That is clearly reminiscent of that dinner or the moments after that dinner that they had, that final dinner, the Last Supper, where he's talking to the family and saying that everybody should reconcile. And this is probably him getting to his bed, sitting down, looking at the crown, thinking, this thing has destroyed me. And this is
Mm.
Damon kind of being given access to that moment, the moment before Viserys lays on his deathbed for the first time, right? I feel like, you know, Viserys asking, do you want it still? And it then cutting to the bedroom he actually died in King's Landing, where his own son is battling his own deformity as someone who also didn't want the crown, is
Yeah.
excellent juxtaposition. Say it with me, everybody. Excellent juxtaposition.
Clap, clap, clap,
Because
clap.
it's just, yeah, they're showing their writing chops by doing that, because there's stuff that they're putting side by side for us to see that will make sense if we've been paying attention, right?
Yeah.
Because I think now I'm even standing maybe even taller on this whole Aegon might end up wearing a mask thing, because them showing him like parallel to Viserys in this way is very nice, and
Yeah,
him even having helpers, right? Like Larry Strong, being there doing his best, right, to kind of curry favor with Aegon, while also kind of maybe actually being genuinely sympathetic towards Aegon and what's happened to him is
yeah,
cool, and it shows how George R. R. Martin actually writes disability. He's very good at it. Something he's done a lot. There are a lot of characters with various kinds of infirmities, conditions, disabilities throughout the story, throughout this world. And a lot of them, like in actual medieval times in our own world, these people would have been seen as forsaken by God in one way or another. They're deformed because of some kind of sin that maybe their parents committed or whatever. They're far from the grace of the Most High, whatever the case may be. But
yeah,
it doesn't really work like that here, because a lot of people end up becoming stronger from being disabled. Like they lose something big, but they gain a lot more in terms of growth, right? We see that with Jamie. We see that with Bran. And I think we're going to see that with Aegon too. It makes me excited for the potential that he has. And him having Laris by his side, someone who's already had to go through this. Laris is more along the lines of someone like, say, Tyrion, who isn't necessarily disabled, but has been seen as such just because of who he is from birth. So there's a lot that he's learned that he could now teach Aegon, the same way his own father, Lionel Strong,
yeah,
taught Viserys as his own Hand of the King. So is Larys going to end up becoming Hand? Who knows? Like Aegon can't really think about that right now. We know Aemond is basically chopping off anybody who annoys him. So there's only so much we can deal with at the moment. But I think them showing Aegon having all of that physical therapy and
yeah,
showing how painful it is, that's very good.
yeah. I
This show
felt
needs
for
to take
him.
its time, and this is one of those moments where it does. I don't know. What did you think of that? Like, what did you think of the fact, for example, that Orwell is doing what he's doing because Laris is asking him to? Because left to Orwell, they just let this guy sleep and get used to
Yeah,
being on milk of the puppy.
yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so I do first of all feel kind of so I've been calling him Aegon the waste man, but I kind of actually feel bad for him just seeing what he's going through right now. Still a
Right,
waste
because you
man,
have a
but
heart.
but that being said, I mean, Laris is always moves in the shadows. So is he trying to
Yeah.
get what's his face to then be his new puppets that he's kind of making moves through? Maybe, but maybe there is an element of sympathy. Like we talked about when the show first started. Laris is a very infamous character in the history of Westeros, and we quite never understood his motivations, what he got out of anything. Why would you kill
Hmm.
your father and your brother? Why would you support this side that is against your nephews? There were all these things, and it seemed like it was just because of Alicent's feet. But obviously, we haven't seen him and Alicent's feet.
Which
This,
might actually be like the weirdest thing they've done for like
yeah,
this
I know.
whole
I,
portraying a disabled person thing in this show. Like, why is that his fetish? Like, guys, relax.
yeah. but we haven't seen that this season. It's like because
Because
yeah, we haven't
Allison
seen
is too
that this
busy vibing
season.
in the woods.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know what Alicent is on. She needs to defect and join
Is
Team
she
Black.
okay?
She needs to join Team Black, bro. Because like, if you think about, actually, I was thinking about it because we just watched this episode like a few hours ago. What is what does she have to do in the Red Keep? She has no role. Her son isn't going to listen to
Yeah,
her.
what
Her
is
other son is
Allison's
her.
arc right now? It's interesting. I wonder if she'll start to have more to do or find new purpose when Daron comes. Like, is he going to extend some of his kind nature to her? Is
He
he
shouldn't
going to?
because
I mean, why
she's
not? Like, if he's different from his brothers, then he would kind of have some kind of sympathy from his mother in some way, no?
yeah, but it's like a catch
And
22.
for
He's
his mother
different
as
from his
well.
brothers because he wasn't raised by his mother. If you introduce his mother, then he'll be exactly the
It could
same as
also
his
be the
brothers.
environment, though. Like, we don't know if it's just Allison. It could also just be the Red Keep.
Ex
Like,
Oh, look at those green plants behind you. That's why all this is coming.
black, 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 blackity black. Listen, okay, look. Okay, fine. Allison, she's the one who's surrounded by green in this episode. We see her trying to find herself. She's with Sir Rickard Thorne, who is, by the way, for anybody who may have noticed that, is very likely from the exact same branch of House Thorne that produced Alistair Thorne, Jon Snow's nemesis in the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones. Um, who knows why that guy is even in the Night's Watch, but whatever. I would say that
Who,
Rickard Thorne,
Alicent?
no, Alistair Thorne
Oh
in
yeah, he
Game of
was
Thrones.
He was he was a Targaryen supporter in the War of the Fight of Robert's Rebellion.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why. That's why. That's true. So they sent him to the wall. Dang.
Yeah.
Ain't no redemption. But anyway, um, Rickard Thorne is here. He's definitely worried about Alicent. He's like, "Yo, can I protect you alone?" Probably he can. Like they're in the Kingswood, which is the same place that they had the hunt in season one, episode three. The Kingswood is this vast stretch of just land and forestry that's like that belongs to the king and his family to do whatever he wants and hunt whatever.
Mhm.
So I think Alicent's gonna be okay. She's just vibing here, but I hope she gets some kind of direction. Just so at the very least, so we understand more about her arc. So yeah, because everybody, I think people are going to be like worried about her. I don't know if Amon is even going to be asking any questions. Um, but you know what? Let's talk about the veil for a moment.
Okay.
Jane Eyre was seriously mean throughout the season.
Yeah.
Um, and all I can say right now is I see Rhaena and the boys heading towards Pentos. But we see Rhaena making a detour. And I just really hope that she's not going where I hope she's not going.
She's going
Because
exactly there.
oh no. Oh
Well,
my
is she
god.
a bad babysitter? Because she just abandoned those children, the future, the Rhaenyra's children, and
Mm,
just abandoned them to who are those people?
I hope,
Terrible
right,
babysitter.
that she doesn't just find something, that she finds maybe someone. But all I can say for sure right now is that this whole veil stuff has to mean something, right?
Yeah.
Because what would have been the point of coming here and sidelining Rhaenyra to this whole Jane Arryn, you know, cold energy thing for like what was the point? Like she clearly didn't want them there, and as soon
Yeah.
as it turns out that yeah, the dragon they're bringing is not a big one, she's like, well, yeah, get out my house, and yeah, she literally said, get out of my house. The Prince of Pentos, Reggio, he should be able to house you, and I'm just like, wow, man, this
Yeah.
lady,
Well,
she like Reyna turned around and she just like turned her back on her and went. She's like, please,
because the plot
we don't need to
demands
see
it, but
more of her.
also
I'm tired.
there's a history of people in the Vale being like that.
They're so
What's her name? Kathleen
pompous.
Stark's
That's just how
sister was
people in the
like
Vale
that.
are in general. Liza
What?
Aaron, yeah, she
Yeah, Les
definitely
Aaron.
was like
Yeah.
that. People in the Vale in general, like the Royces, I don't know. They just have this thing where they feel like they're above everyone else, and I don't
Yeah.
know what makes them feel that way with their pedigree. It's very strange, but anyway, I think heading back to Dragonstone and because that's sort of where we go to after this, right? We see Reyna looking for purpose, and we cut right to Jace, kind of searching for similar purpose, and it makes me wonder, right? Like I said, he's a hypocrite who seems to have forgotten that he has also been described before as a mongrel. Like when he says that word to describe the small folk that might be claiming dragons, I was low key shocked.
Yeah.
Like I thought she was gonna slap him because, bro,
Yeah.
mongrel. Like,
I
does
think,
he really
yeah.
think baseball writers would have more of a chance at usurping the throne than the highborn ones? Like, this is something I'm
Uh,
asking him. Like,
I
he
feel
has
like it
much to
was
learn about being king.
exactly. It was very telling that I think up until like maybe an episode or two ago, I thought Jace would be like a good like ruler after Rhaenyra, but like all of a sudden it's giving rich boy energy. These Michael Jackson kids, we don't really know that much about them,
Oh
and
my god.
Jace, we know they're rich, just like Michael Jackson's kids, but yeah,
Okay.
Jace, he kind of fell my hand this episode. I expected more from him.
What did you think of his confrontation? At least the part of the confrontation with Rhaenyra where he mentions Harwin, because that's crazy.
I mean, that I don't think is that wild because he was the only when Harwin died and Lena
He was the only
died.
one who knew, but
He was the
still,
only one
though,
who knew exactly. So the others probably would have figured it out eventually, but
I think Lucerys probably kind of knew too, deep down. Let's be
exactly,
real.
exactly.
He knew because that
So
boy was showing fear everywhere. He was just like, bro. He had the energy of like, please let them not catch me. Please let them
yeah,
not catch me. And Jace
yeah,
was like, try and catch me.
yeah. It's
I don't know.
but
His point makes sense.
what?
His point makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a valid point to bring up because it's the truth. And again, it doesn't matter who their dads are; their claim to the throne comes from Rhaenyra. So And even if all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're not legitimate children, Rhaenyra is the queen and she can legitimize them. So it does all that doesn't matter. It's
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
all
And
that doesn't matter.
it's like Viserys agreed with Corlys and Rhaenys, when they talked about the whole like marriage thing for Rhaenyra and Leonor. Viserys said specifically that yes, they will be Velaryons, but as soon as any of them assumes the throne, they will take the name Targaryen. The
Targaryen, yeah,
Targaryen dynasty is not just going to end here because somebody married a Velaryon. The Targaryens and the
yeah,
Velaryons have been intermarrying for a long time. That's part of the
exactly.
reason, most likely, that Adam can actually even ride a dragon, because Corlys definitely has some kind of Valyrian blood, and Adam's mother
So
um
this is the interesting part.
was
Corlys
his
is
Targaryen.
still early enough in the Valerian Targaryen um, ethos that none of his ancestors were married to anyone between Aegon the Targaryen and. Actually, let me rephrase that. None of his ancestors were married to any Targaryens. Like none of them. And I looked up
Are
the
you sure?
I looked up the genealogy tree. Unless I misread, I do not think Corlys is.
I would have
I
thought that maybe not Corlys himself, but maybe other branches of the Velaryon family. I guess that maybe the core line that produced
Yeah.
Corlys, the core Velaryon line that produced Corlys,
Yes.
maybe would be purely Velaryon and maybe other people. But I would
Exactly.
have thought that maybe there would be some Targaryen like wives in there somehow.
There might be, but
Maybe
they're
not.
not from Corlys's line. There was no,
Okay.
because I looked up. There was another Corlys who was like before him, and then if you look at the genealogy above him, there's no other Valerians. I think the first Valerian line was Corlys marrying Rhaenys, but also Rhaenys isn't a
Ah.
Targaryen; she's a Baratheon. So
No, she is a
it's
Targaryen though. Her father was a Targaryen. Her mother is
no,
a
no,
Baratheon. So she's both. Yeah, her
no.
father.
Wait.
She's yeah. That's
Oh
why
yeah.
she
Oh my
was in
God,
line
you're
for the
right. You're
throne.
right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
her
I had
name
a
is
brain fart
Rhaenys
moment.
Targaryen.
She's
She doesn't
Targaryen.
even answer the Velaryon name, right?
Yeah.
So at the very least, Laenor and Lena are half Targaryen, which explains their dragon riding easily.
Yeah.
But we don't really know where Adam and Alan get theirs from. Like it's possible that like because Seasmoke sought Adam out, right? So it's quite possible that their mother was also a dragon seed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason, right? And
Yeah.
this is where Jace is kind of finding his issue, because he said, I'm no fool, mother. The proof is here for all to see. Yet I may argue my legitimacy to succeed you because I have a dragon. And now you
Yeah.
say you will strip that from me too.
Yeah.
Because, yes, I said he needs to take ownership of the fact that this was his idea, but I sympathize with him because I don't think he saw it going this way. And I think I don't want him to inherit this whole thing of not thinking things through from Rhaenyra, because I mean, she says her response is, I mislike all of this, but I cannot gainsay that which the gods have laid before me. So she has to understand her place, and she has to understand the cards she's being dealt, and she's trying to make use of them while the iron is hot. Like I said,
Yeah.
raising a teenage boy is hard.
Yeah.
But
But
um,
I do think there is a lot of truth in that because in a way the Targaryens, I don't want to say that they're destroying their image, but like Targaryens were viewed almost as gods, in many a
yeah,
sense.
they're
And
basically viewed as demigods. If you see the dragons as gods and Targaryens as people who ride them, this is what separates them. But
exactly, and that
if they were
separation
going
is
to be,
going away.
well, maybe they should have kept it in their pants and not had so many bastards. Like,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Like, it's the truth.
that. I'm sorry, that's unreasonable. That is extremely unreasonable. That
It is
can't happen.
unreasonable.
It
I
can't
understand it's
happen.
unreasonable and it could not have happened. But that's my point. I'm happy this is happening right now for Adam. And I understand that literally there is no other place for us to have gone to than this because of the way people are. But I'm
Yeah,
saying if they're going to complain that other people have access to their blood, maybe their whole thing about keeping the bloodlines pure should have been something that they paid more attention to rather
yeah,
than doing just whatever they wanted.
yeah,
And at the same time, it also shows that there's only certain kinds of people that can be dragon riders, even if they have Targaryen blood. So it's not even just about the blood in the first place. Because somebody would say, okay, well, yeah, this is why we need to, have it in just our blood. And that's why the incest is justified. No, it's not. I'm not condoning that. Right. This is not like it just shouldn't be that way. And I think that them taking some kind of responsibility is what needs to begin here, because then they can understand, marrying people to other houses, strengthening their bonds, and not just being seen as
Interlopers.
these people who are doomed to rule for no real reason other than blood superiority. Like some
Yeah,
might even say Dany's the dreamer should have kept that dream to herself. Maybe these people should have just burned in old Valyria,
I'm
and it should
dead.
just be the Velaryons here. Like I don't know. Like we have to understand that actions have consequences. And yes, this is literally the only way this could have happened, but we need to take note of why. Like we shouldn't be doing some kind of blame game here, especially Jacaerys. I don't know. Like if all the other people working for Rhaenyra are kind of earning their keep. They're trying to further this cause in other ways, right? And we see a continuation to uh well, spiritually anyway, to the plan from the previous episode that I was applauding, where Missaria is literally earning her salary. Like Elinda is over there, she's still in King's Landing doing her work. She's bunking with her friend Diana probably, and
I'm dead.
I think I think it's cool that they have her still there, like sending messages, handling correspondence, literally making sure that they have someone on ground. And she's a lot more useful to this cause so far than her father, who sits on the small council. Like, to heck with that guy. Um, I think it is very telling, though, that as we're seeing all these people, all these Targaryen bastards receive these letters, and we see that the mission that Alan was being told about by Corlys at the beginning of the episode was this, right? He wanted someone he could trust. Like this is great for the relationship. Let me just say,
Yeah,
like he wanted someone he could trust, and he's handled this for him on behalf of Rhaenyra. I think it's cool that we start to see some faces that we've seen before here and there, whether it's like in fighting pits or in brothels. Like I remember in the episode episode 3, when Aegon was bullying Aemond in the brothel, right? We saw some people who looked like they could be dragon seeds. I think in the previous episode as well, when Aegon was lying on Sylvie's lap, we saw another one there, and she had like all this silver hair. She was dancing. I remember watching her, thinking she could be a dragon seed, and lo and behold, I think she's like literally in this
yeah,
episode. Like we see her again. I think it's very telling though that Ulf and Hugh are reluctant. Um, and
yeah.
we
They're
talked a
what?
little bit already about who Hugh's mother is, right, and how it's probably Sierra. Just seeing that multitude of silverhead people coming out the woodwork was a little crazy, right?
Hmm.
These people, it makes sense that they would have spread in this way, but I wonder if maybe they could have been used as a little bit more than fodder just in this episode. Um, Let me explain. So I feel like there are lots of people listening to this podcast who are, and hi people, by the way, um, they feel like you or I. They have knowledge of this story, they have an idea of where it's going, and they like what's coming down the line. But there are other people whom we love just as much, if not more, who are paying attention to this story for the first time. And they are trying to figure out where things will be going. And I wonder if those people who aren't like you or I were watching this season, which they are, at what point would they have realized that it would be Ulf and Hugh that would end up with dragons? Because it almost seems telegraphed in a way. I love the writing in this show, but I suppose just in the interest of being fair, I have to say that maybe they kind of made it too obvious that it would be those two. I feel like a lot of people watching this show would have been like, yeah, like nothing's gonna happen to these two. Or maybe they would have been afraid. Maybe they would have thought nobody's getting a dragon, for example. But I feel like with the attention that these two got, the fact that we kept seeing them, we kept understanding their anti-green sentiment building, and the fact that they would jump at this opportunity, I wonder if they could have used more tension in the writing, or actually maybe implemented more tension by using the writing to include more of these dragon seeds that we saw kind of just get barbecued in this episode. Maybe we could have seen some other ones, whether it's in brothels, on the streets, in the marketplaces, doing one kind of odd job or another. Maybe even just walking around the Red Keep, fighting pits, all kinds of things. Like there's so many things that people can be in King's Landing, in Flea Bottom. It's it's an interesting world, and maybe it was just a time thing. I can imagine an ideal scenario where they are literally showing us different people in King's Landing who are going through all kinds of things. Maybe they introduce us to Hugh and Ulf, but then as the season goes on, they introduce us to more of these dragon seeds here and there. We hear them have more speaking roles. We hear a sense of what they're thinking, what they want from life. And then we have more that we're rooting for other than Ulf and Hugh, so that when this moment comes in front of Vermithor, we have more than one person that we're like, I hope they make it out alive.
Mm,
Maybe even more so than Hugh and Ulf, so that once what happens, we're actually shocked. It's like, okay, the person that I thought was actually going to get this dragon is roasted. That feels very Game of Thrones. I feel like
yeah.
they had an opportunity here to bring tension to that moment, but instead they kind of telegraphed it and then flesh out Hugh and Ulf more. Like they had a choice. They could have either fleshed out Hugh and Ulf more on their own, and then while making it less obvious, maybe giving them other motivations, or they could have fleshed them out while fleshing out some other people so that we can understand what connects the dragon seeds in a way besides their blood. You know, the shared metal they have, the shared mindset, all that stuff, so that we can get a sense of how they would actually react in this situation. Because let's be real, just like Darkland, when that one dude showed up and he's like, I want to go first, I'm like, wow, he's going to get cooked.
He was
Like,
shaking so much.
oh my
There was
God. He was, I said it last episode, stop showing fear. Rhaenyra, like, Rhaenyra just like selling these people dreams.
yes.
Like,
They're
it's
literally selling
crazy.
them
Like,
dream.
oh my God. Knowing her, she did not think this through, because what would happen to the people who survived but don't get a dragon?
Well,
Like, is she just going
honestly,
to give them $20 like they just participated in her study?
no,
Like,
she thought it
like
through because it doesn't matter if if she puts one person or a million people. If she gets two dragon riders out of it, it's worth it. And that's ultimately all she needs. She needs two
it
dragon
is.
riders for the two dragons. That's all
I
she
mean,
needs. It doesn't matter if they
but
all
they even
die.
brought out just Vermithor. Like, it was literally, you only brought out Vermithor. You did it
No,
one
one
at a
at a
time.
time. One at a time. Ah, you want to put both of them there. Those dragons are. What if the dragons not started fighting?
That would have been insane. Though I feel like they wouldn't have, since the last people who rode Vermithor and Silverwing were husband and wife. Though I can say that as well for Vhagar and Meleys, unfortunately, because
Mm,
Damon and Viserys' dad rode Vhagar and their mom rode Meleys.
mm,
And it's just kind of weird to see these dragons that are basically family fighting and killing
yeah,
each other.
yeah,
It's very weird how they connect with their riders, and I wonder if there's a part of Vhagar that actually had some kind of conflict doing what Aemond wanted in that moment. But
yeah.
it is what it is. Like, I didn't have the Dragon Keepers, like I said, disagreeing on my bingo card, right? Rhaenyra, I think, should not get on their bad side. You need the Dragon Keepers. You need them
You
believing in
do.
you. You need them believing you are not an idiot. I
Yeah.
think they're starting to get tired of her, and that's not something we want.
I wonder if they'll
Okay,
come around when they see, because Ulf and Hugh are very Targaryen looking motherfuckers, if they'll come around when they see that.
they are. They
Because
they low-key have the energy. They
I
have
think
that.
why
They
they
have that.
quit
They
was
have that vibe
because
in a sense.
I
But
think
that's
they
because
quit
obviously the writing
because
has given them attention.
I'm dead. No, I think they quit because a black man was riding a dragon. Personally, they just saw Sea Smoke being claimed
No, no,
by Adam, and
that's
they were like,
crazy.
nope,
They can't do
nope.
that because they know Sea Smoke is black, and I feel like I'm sorry. This is just the truth. It's the truth.
Okay.
Like, Rhaenyra literally telling these people, because these are people she doesn't know, by the way. These are small folk, and I love how Sir Laurent Marbrand is just always ready. Like, he's walking, like she moves forward, and he's just walking with her, and then he's holding his sword like this,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Don't worry." And it's amazing that he's still there doing his job, because now he has so much to protect. I mean, again, the King's Guard is out here dwindling. At one
Yeah.
point, I think it was in was it in King's Landing or in on Dragonstone, that I saw one King's Guard and I was like, "Who is this?" I was like, literally, who is this? I'm starting to see people I don't even know, because
Yeah.
we're running out. I
Very
don't like
funny.
Cole could be anywhere. He's on the way to Harrenhal, of course, but Rhaenyra just saying, at the end of that her long speech, she looks at Meraxis's head, and then she turns around and it's like she has ginger. She's like, "Okay, we're going to Vermithor first." And then
Yeah.
she's like, "May the gods bless you." What do you mean, may the gods bless you?
Ah,
You didn't think this, you brought these people here to die. You knew. I mean, on some level, it's like, okay, we disclosed it, right? We told them that they could die. You didn't tell them that most of them will certainly die,
I mean,
right?
they didn't have to come. That's all I'll say. They didn't have to come. And
Uh,
again, it doesn't, in a way, it doesn't matter because all that matters is that Rhaenyra needed two riders for two dragons, and she got
the
two
small
riders.
folk matter.
It's,
They matter
man,
too.
they matter, but
Listen, no,
like,
no, oh my god, listen to
man,
me.
sorry,
Like,
bro. Niggas get shot every day, B. They'll be all right.
what?
You tough, right?
Oh my god. Listen, listen. I I understand that Vermithor is the quote unquote dragon that was promised. We've been seeing this dragon since the end of season one, okay, when Damon was singing to him. For anyone who's forgotten, that's who that dragon was. This moment, we knew it was coming on some level, right? But the way this was done was so haphazard, right? When they walked in there without the dragon keepers, I was like, eh?
Hmm.
Like the Dragon Keeper's not being here is crazy. Rhaenyra goes right up to Vermithor. You can tell she has experience as a dragon rider. She actually is able to get Vermithor to relax. These people didn't follow her example. I understand, right? You can't blame them for being scared. This is a dragon. And literally, he tries to do what Rhaenyra did. He like lifts his arm to
His
touch
hand was
Vermithor, and Vermithor
shaking.
is like,
His
"Excuse me."
hand was shaking. I think that guy
Oh
who
my god, he got
took
singed
everything
so fast.
got burnt up, bro. Even the
Nah,
guards
like
got burnt. You know what? I was just laughing at that whole scene because I was just why was Ulf there?
I
Because
was,
Ulf was that's peer pressure. Peer pressure forced
bro.
Ulf to be there
Like
because
all
he
didn't want
didn't know
to
what to
go.
do. And now he looked
I
so
was
happy
losing my
riding.
mind.
He looked so happy riding that dragon, though. He looked so
Of
happy.
getting knocked off the platform and then picking up that lamp to go. I was like, okay, good. He has a torch. He's gonna find his way out the cave. Maybe he's gonna look for a
Probably
boat.
deeper
But
inside
it's
the
like,
cave.
can I really say that, or was it just clear that he was gonna run right into Silverwing? Because literally, even right as he gets into the part of the cave where Silverwing is, and he steps in that clutch of dragon eggs, which I really hope he didn't break any of them. I
Yeah,
hope
me
that was
too.
just like random goo. But you could see Silverwing right there in the background. Like if you watch that again, you can
Sleeping,
actually see
yeah.
Silverwing there. She's just there sleeping, and then she wakes up, and the energy was just so interesting. Like I know her color camouflaged her, and like his adrenaline was high, but bro, look at your surroundings. You're
Yeah.
in danger. Like, but thankfully she's quite a contrast to Vermithor, his Bronze Fury, right? She
Mm.
was a lot more forgiving, and she actually reminds me a little bit of Sunfire in her
Yeah,
look.
and Aegon. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say
Yeah,
the same
I,
thing.
not just in the way that, like, first of all, the look of Sunfire, but also the way Sunfire nudged Aegon
Aegon.
right before
Yeah,
that
exactly.
final ride.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was nice. I think Tom Bennett's portrayal as Ulf was great in that scene, and really in all the other scenes. Like when he's flying, I, first, why are you flying to King's Landing? First of all, like,
Okay,
don't be
when I saw
ridiculous.
him flying to King's Landing, I was like 1,000% sure he was going by himself to go to the bar and to go like show his friends, look at me, I have a dragon, ha ha ha. But also
That's
that
insane.
was a good plan because like imagine if like Amon just kept going. I am 1,000% sure Vhagar they would have taken Vhagar. Three dragons against
He
Vhagar,
knew.
they'd have
No,
taken
he
him.
knew because
He
I
knew it
mean,
was a trap.
Kieran Bew as Hugh was also great, right? And we know that he now has Vermithor. I think, you know, in that scene, like I talked about the dragons being able to see what someone is really made of, right? And Hugh really stood his ground. He
Hmm.
went from being somebody who beat somebody up in the previous episode to being somebody who's saving someone in this episode. And
Hmm.
that person that girl that's hiding with him behind that stone, she does make it out alive,
Yeah,
as do some other people, which I'm sure is how some of this is going to reach King's Landing, right? Because Rhaenyra again is not paying people for her study, so I feel like they're just going to tell other people like, okay, this is what happened. Um, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've already talked about predictability and the fact that it's these two guys. So maybe on some level, we probably should have known that Ulf would run into Silverwing at this point, and this is how that would happen. But I was definitely impressed with Hugh, and I think Rhaenyra was too. Like, you can literally see her face at the end. It's like, oh my god, we got one.
yeah,
Like, we got one. Thank you, God.
yeah,
And I feel like like Aemon getting there, like he's on his horse, he gets to Vigar, who is obviously so big that she can't be in the dragon pit. Um, she get like they get into they take to the skies, and I think he wanted to kind of follow for a little bit just to understand at the very because he didn't waste a second, right?
yeah,
He wants to know like where did this dragon come from, but he had to turn back. I think on some level it's like, okay, let me turn back because I'm not ready to take anyone right now. But maybe he saw them from a distance and was like, I don't like what I'm seeing there. I need to turn around because he and Vigor would have been cooked. That
Yeah,
would have been it. And that's the
I
end of the
think
Greens.
I read that slightly differently. I read it. I watched it as there's a dragon. Oh, let me get my dragon and go and fight. And then he got
Yeah.
onto Vhagar, and then as he was flying, he was just like, "Wait a minute, this is too.
Yeah.
It's quiet.
Oh, you
It's
saw it
too
as like,
quiet."
okay, this is a trap.
Yeah,
Like, what is this dragon? Like,
I
why is the
think
dragon coming
it
from
was
here?
it was 1,000% a trap, and I think he recognized at the last second that it was a trap,
So
and then
here's
he
the thing.
moved.
I wondered, right? How did Ulf get to King's Landing? Is this a matter of Ulf was just like, he just got behind the wheel of this Lamborghini, and now he's just like going through the streets and he's like just running through like bulldozing stuff because he has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't even know how to use like a stick shift or whatever,
Well, I thought
and he's
I read that as a
learning.
plan. It looked
That's
to
the
me
thing. Like
like,
I was like, did Ulf end up here on his own,
oh,
or did he
initially,
come out
okay,
and then
okay,
Rhaenyra? Did he come out and then Rhaenyra saw him flying and was like, go towards King's Landing, just so like they can lure Aemon out or something. And
yeah,
that's why Rhaenyra is there waiting because she sees Aemon
with
and she's
two
waiting. And then
dragons.
Vermithor is there too. Cyrax is there. That was just a beautiful shot.
That I
My
think
goodness.
that's my
Like,
favorite shot in Game of Thrones history.
no, like literally,
That is
it's
my
it's
favorite
reminiscent
shot.
of shots from Game of Thrones where Daenerys is with her own dragons. It
Yeah.
reminds me actually of when Jon was standing in that exact same spot and Daenerys landed from the Battle of the Gold Road where she almost burned Jamie. She lands with
Hmm.
Drogon, and Drogon is actually able to connect with Jon. Like this is reminding
Yeah.
me of that because
Yeah.
it's giving winning team. It's giving like gold, silver, and bronze dragons. Like it's giving Olympic champions.
I'm
Let's be real.
dead. I'm
This was
dead.
beautiful to see because
It
Aemon
was.
saw them and turned back. And that's the
I don't think he
writing.
saw them. I think he just sensed that this was alright because he was pretty
Like either
far.
either way, like is the writing showing us that
Yeah.
like it's showing us rather than telling us that Rhaenyra finally has a real deterrent to Aemon
Hmm.
and Vhagar just landing and roasting everyone casually
Yeah.
whenever they want.
Yeah.
That's no longer a possibility for them. And
Exactly.
that's a
Exactly.
real game changer for the story.
Exactly. It's like when Otto said in episode 7 of season 1, where that the that Aemon has done us like a lot of service by getting Vhagar to our side. I think this
Mhm.
reckless quote unquote decision by Rhaenyra has done a lot because Bankole had been saying it that Vhagar is a cheat code. Vermithor is a cheat code.
Well, Vermithor is a cheat. Like
Vermithor is a cheat
Vermithor
code.
is basically like what's the best version of Vhagar? Like you could have Vhagar. What if you could have Vhagar slightly smaller so that she could be more nimble and a little
Hmm.
bit more ferocious?
Hmm.
That's Vermithor.
Like Vermithor.
Vermithor is easily the dragon I would want on my side before
Exactly.
Vhagar.
Exactly.
Easily. Like Vermithor doesn't even have holes in in his own wings like that.
Yeah.
Like at least not the way Vhagar does. Like
I,
Vhagar has seen life.
I
I
love
think Vhagar
when
wants to
like
retire.
Aemon was riding up to Vhagar, and like every time like Vhagar is in the grass and he just stands up a little bit. I rewinded that exact part probably like 20 times just to watch Vhagar. That
It's
dragon is
crazy because
fucking
I mean,
magnificent.
imagine people like actually moving back. Don't nobody should be going anywhere near there. If you've missed, I mean, that means you've missed road, and just pray you
Yeah.
don't get eaten and you don't wake the dragon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Vermithor even coming up to Rhaenyra in that moment when they're doing this whole ceremony of sorts
That was so
and being like,
beautiful.
yeah,
That scene of
yeah,
where the dragon was
yeah,
just behind her and she turned around. Bro,
it
I
was
remember
great.
that
He's
scene.
like, I know who you are. You are my queen. But like,
You
I
queen.
think, I think her face even then was like, yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm me. Like
I'm
I'm
her.
her.
I'm
I'm
her,
her.
bro.
Like
For
she,
real, for real.
and then and then the crazy thing is she left. I thought she was actually going to stay. She left. She's
Oh
like,
no, she
yeah,
had to
if
leave. Oh, she had to leave because
she's
she
like,
was
yeah,
going.
if this is gonna get cooked, I'm not gonna be standing here. I thought she was just gonna go and then just come back later, but not
No,
her
oh
going
no,
to the
she had
top
to
to
be there.
watch.
She had to
When she
be
was
there.
leaving, she looked at Miss Arya and she gave her this look. I was like, sis, we need to leave now. Like, we need to leave now.
Right now,
That was
bro.
wild because there was no supervision. I'm actually glad no Dragon Keeper had to die because this was real carnage.
Yeah,
Vermithor hasn't eaten in a long time.
dude. He was eating them like they were like Tic Tacs, just like bloop, bloop, bloop.
Wow.
Roast one a little
That
bit, pick
was
him up, eat
wild,
him.
bro. Like, I like how they showed Rhaenyra's face when he was looking hopeless
Mm,
because she was already feeling bad about Stefan Darklin. And now it's like she's just brought like scores of people to just die yet again. Like, this went way worse than anyone expected. So, the fact that she's able to get one, just one, And then
Yeah.
it turns out that she got two. That's amazing. Like
Yeah, it's
literally,
wild.
we've gone like the blacks. I can't stress how great this is for them if they use this well, because they started unsure, right? They have more dragons, but they had more experienced dragons as well.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this season, they had Cyrax, Caraxes, and Melis, right? We don't have Melis anymore. We don't have
RIP.
Rhaenys. We're probably gonna have Caraxes and Damon again soon. But now we literally have Cyrax, we have Silverwing, we have
Vermithor.
Vermithor, Gold, Silver, and Bronze. Then we have
Moondancer.
Caraxes. We have
No.
Sea Smoke.
Sea Smoke.
We have Moon Dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And we even if you want to be nice, you can even count the tiny dragons that are like that are the size of dogs. Like
Those ones are lizards.
w- this is great right now. Like we literally have six dragons that can fight right now,
Dude,
whereas
honestly,
all they have is Vagar, and
I
they and some because some fire is seriously wounded. I mean, of course, they
well
also
they
have
have
Dreamfire,
Dreamfire.
Helena's dragon, but Helena's not going to fight anybody. Let's be real. They are not going to convince Helena to get on a dragon and smoke anybody. They're just
Yeah.
not, unless maybe they kill her daughter. So I don't know.
Whoa, 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 whoa. My girl's been through enough. But I do
She
think like
has.
I think honestly, man, why didn't Rhaenyra just take the fight to Vhagar? Because if she brings all six dragons, what's Vhagar going to
I feel
do?
like that might have been overplaying her hand though,
In
because
what way? Like,
Vigor is still Vigor,
dude, Vhagar
and Hugh. And,
Venator is a
yeah, but
coin flip.
Hugh and Off don't. They're not experienced yet. They don't know how to properly use those
Yeah,
dragons.
but it's not about experience. It's I mean, what's his name? Aemon is experienced, but he still accidentally let Vhagar chomp Lucerys. You know, the illusion that we control the dragon. Sorry, the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. Viserys said it. Just point the dragons at each other because Vhagar versus Vermithor to me is kind of a coin flip. Throwing three other dragons, it's like
Mm.
it's a sure thing.
Basically, I can agree with that, but I wonder if this is the right time though. That's the only thing, because it
Mm,
would still put Rhaenyra in danger because she would have to fly out herself. Oh,
true,
did I?
true,
Sorry, I didn't even mention they also have Lucerys and Vermax.
true, true, true.
They literally have seven fighting dragons.
You
Oh
know,
my
Jacaerys,
goodness.
not Lucerys.
Oh yeah, Jacaerys. Jacaerys had Arax.
Lucerys is
R.I.P.
chopped up.
Oh my god. And actually, you know what? Speaking of dragons and VFX, like the way they shoot dragon approaches is crazy. The way
Yeah.
they have this whole like Jaws moment of like something wicked this way comes,
Mm,
and you just know that you're about to see something crazy. When
mhm.
Vermithor actually popped out his head, and you could see just the scale of what was happening in that space. Like, first of all, I've always loved the fact that they have this dragon garage where they can go and ride out in their hot rods. Like, it's fantastic that they just
Yeah,
have that
very
at like
convenient.
at the back of the house. But the fact that all these dragons can fit there is amazing, because
Hmm.
Vhagar could actually fit in there too, right? It's an interesting cave, this mountain, and it's cool that they kind of built their castle to be a part of it rather than the other way around. Whereas the Dragon Pit was like a man-made thing
Yeah.
that it exists in King's Landing. I mean, it has three hills, right? Like you have Aegon's Hill, which houses the Red Keep. You have Visenia's Hill, which houses the Dragon Pit, and then you have Rhaenys' Hill that houses that Great Sept. So King's Landing essentially has these three spots as like its anchors, and they're all kind of man-made. They use the terrain, but there was only so much they could do. Whereas like Dragonstone is built for this kind of stuff. So their dragons are not even stunted growth wise. So Vermithorpe has actually also been growing just as much as Vigor.
Hmm.
And it's amazing. Like it's a beautiful sight. Episode 8 is definitely going to be interesting in the way that they're going
Hmm.
to kind of have the conversations, because now Rhaenyra has to address Off and Hugh and be like, okay, so what are we up to now? Like, what is you guys' deal? What do you want? Welcome to the fold. This is your onboarding. Like, how are we going to do it? Because I know there's a scene from the trailer where she's sitting at a table with some people, and I'm pretty sure it's them. And she's wearing her crown. Jacaerys is there too. It's looking fun. So I don't know. Any predictions for episode 8?
The next
Because
episode,
the
honestly,
Darren and Saren being mentioned is fantastic. I
I,
mean, I
I,
feel like
I don't
maybe
think
we'll
we're
see
going to
them,
see
but
Darren
oh,
this
maybe
season.
not though.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to, but I don't think we are. Honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen this next episode. I think I had my, in terms of what I thought was going to happen this season when we did the spoiler, I kind of already said all the things that I thought was going to happen. As for the pacing, I think I had my predictions. I'm obviously not going to share that right now, but we are, to me, a little bit slower than where how I thought the season will end. But
Okay.
I think that we're going to see Kristen Cole next episode. We're going to see
Hmm.
Alicent come
Yeah.
back into the
Can't have a
Red Keep
finale
next
without him.
episode.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what's going to happen with Damon and the Riverlands. There's so many things I don't know, and they
I
could
just
take
hope
it
that that
anywhere.
whole thing actually concludes where he actually gets the army. Like we see the Riverland hosts actually gathering at Harrenhal or something.
Okay, yeah, that would be something. Yeah, that could be a way to end. Maybe we get to see the North again. Dragonstone is a different place now that they're different dragon riders, so we can maybe explore
Yeah.
that. It can go anyways. It's
Yeah.
even though I kind
Um,
of have an idea where the story is going, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I love that. I love that.
yeah. People need to remember that, like, what this world is, right? And these shows are that we're experiencing this world through, like, what they are at their best: measured, thoughtful, steady. They're excellent at cause and effect. Intense action was not what made Game of Thrones great. I think this is why it's sometimes said that people have no idea what they want. Because if they
Mm,
got that intense action too quickly, all that rising action, it would be disastrous for the narrative. And these same people would complain, right? I think that people need to remember, like, this is the show you're watching. Like, I remember episode 4 saying, now we get to know what this show really is. This episode is just like that, where it's reminding us what's at stake, and it's really telling us how exciting all of this can be. And it shows us how exciting, how even more exciting things can be when we allow them to pay off properly, right? The pacing is definitely something that you have to pay attention to in a story like this, because there's so many moving parts. Imagine this story was something that people were binging, like,
yeah.
not after the fact, but like literally binging. Like, it comes out, nobody's talking about it, nobody's having time to reflect. Like, is not week to week. Like, this is so much information that the only way you can really appreciate the story and let it have some meaning is for it to be done this way. So I just hope that collective attention span loss in the world you know, doesn't mess up the way people enjoy the show, right? Because the
Yeah,
coverage ecosystem that we have now, like, it didn't exist when Game of Thrones started, right?
yeah,
So I think having social media the way it is definitely, it definitely plays a role in how people are receiving these stories. And
yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense that people are excited, and I hope that this creates that hype for season 3, because it only gets better from here. I mean, season 2 has definitely been the opposite of a disappointment so far.
yeah.
I hope they stick the landing pretty well, because it's really just a question of what are they going to set up, what is going to be that final shot, what do they
Hmm.
want us to keep in our minds as that final moment as we get
Hmm.
into season 3,
Hmm.
right? Like in season 1, it was Rhaenyra turning around, and we saw
Yeah,
her face after she found out that Lucerys had been killed, and we pick up right where that leaves off. So I'm curious to see how we do it in this season.
yeah,
Um, One more thing I loved. I know I talked about this a little bit already with Silverwing, but I love the dragon designs. I love how they're so distinct.
it's very
I love how you
distinct.
can tell their personalities,
Yeah,
because dragon design is not just about how they look. They have someone who designs sounds and cries and
yeah.
whistles and roars and growls and snorts for literally every
The
single
dragon.
dragon
Yeah, and it's
individually.
all different.
That's amazing. Like, it's such attention to detail, right?
Hmm.
I like how we have, like, we have there's like this bougie dragons and there's like proletariat dragons. Like, it's like you have the Ajapako dragons and like the Ajavo dragons. Like, you can tell which dragons grew up in Lagos and which dragons like were born in the US. Like,
Lagos with
you have names
the
like
guns fire.
Vermitor, Caraxes, Tyraxes, and then there's like Sunfire, Silverwing, Stormcloud,
Moon dancer.
Moon Dancer. It's like, yeah, you clearly grew up in easier times.
I'm
that's
dead.
just that's just so funny. Like, whoever was naming these dragons is just it. I think that the naming actually matters, and I think that the way they've done it is cool because it lends credence to the person doing the naming as well, and the person who actually has a bond with that dragon. Like, you would
Hmm.
think Sea Smoke is like, oh well, that's not a very Valerian sounding name, but that is such a fitting name for that dragon,
Yeah,
what it represents, who
yeah,
rides it, where it spends its time, its allegiance. Like, it's another thing that's well thought out. as is everything that Ramin does, because that
10 out of
staccato
10.
version of the power of prophecy that plays in the end credits, I was just bopping my head to that. I just loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it because like it's I just can't stress how nice it is when music isn't an afterthought in
True.
television. Like
Yeah.
it's just always better when someone is thinking about this stuff because you create real atmosphere.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, before we close out, I guess we have to answer who played the game best, because this episode was so wild. I kind of forgot there was a game to be played.
I think for me, I was initially going to go with what was I going to go with initially? I don't remember, but it's I was initially going to go with the Tully, Oscar Tully,
Oscar
but
Tully. Oh yes.
but it has to be Hugh. He was my
Okay.
first played. He was my first played the game best in season
Even
in
though
this
he doesn't really
season.
realize he's playing the Game of Thrones yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's he was my first playing the game best in season 1 to episode 1, and he comes back
Mhm.
for me in this episode. How about you?
Okay. I am actually going to stick with Oscar Tully because
Ah,
he truly showed himself
yeah.
as formidable. I
Okay.
was so impressed. I was like, "Oh my god, I love this kid!" Like this is fantastic. I feel
Yeah.
so bad for you that Edmure is your descendant and he's going to lose this house.
Oh
Like I
my
feel so
god.
bad.
Yeah,
This
Edmure
is amazing.
survived to the end of Game of Thrones, so
Well, that's
shit.
fair. That's fair. But he did it mostly in a cell, so
Yeah.
let's not forget that. Yeah, this was a cool episode. I'm very much looking forward to the finale, which I should mention we are not going to get screeners for. Okay, so we are going to be in the same boat as all of you listening to this podcast right now, as HBO is actually not letting anyone see the final episode of season 2 before it airs in real time.
I know.
So we're still going to come with the podcast. It's going to be out a little bit later than usual because we have to gather our thoughts in all of the frenzy. But we will be here next week, joined by a special friend, and are going to have a lot to talk about because we have theories as to where this is going, and we can't wait to share some of those with you in the next episode. So yeah, this has been a good one, folks. I don't know what I'm gonna do when the season ends. I think maybe I might have to like read a book or something. So yeah. But anyway, till next week. See y'all. Valamogulis.